Well, for more on the state of the European Union, I'm joined by Bulent Aliriza. He's the founding director of the Turkey Project Center at the Center for Strategic and International Studies in Washington, D.C. Welcome back.
Thank you for inviting me.
A lot going on right now. EU-Turkish ties in terms of the refugee crisis. Let's talk about it. How do you view Ankara is handling the situation?
Ankara is in a very strong position because Chancellor Merkel is in a very difficult position with the refugees. She's just made her fourth trip in 6 months to Turkey, which underlines how seriously she sees this problem. Millions of refugees have poured into Turkey, 2.5 million are there, and 1 million more have moved on to Europe. And clearly this is a burden that Germany cannot absorb or deal with. So Merkel has lent on her European partners, and this deal has been struck. Essentially, and it's interesting to see the European Commission President praising Turkey for this, the deal involves the refugees staying in Turkey and not coming to Europe. And whether it sticks will really determine, you know, not just the future of Chancellor Merkel, but maybe even the EU itself.
Let's talk about the money and the payments. Is that going to come through?
Well, there are two tranches that they're talking about, totaling 6 billion in all. But frankly, Turkey spent more money itself, upwards of $12 billion on the refugees since the war has begun. As long as the Syrian crisis continues, frankly, the refugee issue will continue to be a problem for Turkey. If it's a problem for Turkey, Turkey's telling the Europeans it's a problem for you, which is why Merkel is leaning over backwards to try and keep the Turks happy.
The visa issue, did you think this was an appropriate bargaining chip?
For the Europeans or for the Turks?
Turks.
The Turks clearly have been wanting to do this for a long time. The French don't want to do it. The others don't want to do it. Merkel is saying that she wants to do it, but the German people don't want it. You know, the deadline is June, but frankly, I don't think that it will be done by June. And what that will do to the deal is another question.
Well, what's likely next to come between Turkey and the EU in the midst of the crisis with Syria?
Look, Turkey is an aspirant for EU membership. And another part of the deal is the acceleration of the Turkish-EU process. That, frankly, is not going to happen. Just like with the visa issue, I think there are serious questions about whether the Europeans can or will accelerate the EU process. Now, Syria has made the EU dependent on Turkey, but not as a potential aspirant, or not as a potential future member, but as a country which would hold the refugees away from the European Union.
U.S. President Obama there visiting Britain. He's urging them, the young crowd especially, to vote to stay in the EU, to vote on this referendum, warning of dire consequences in trade. Is this his interest or the international interest? You know,
President Obama sees as his lasting legacy his defense of globalization, the dependence of countries on each other, and the rejection of isolationism. So clearly this is the message he's taking to the UK. Last time there was a referendum, I was a student at university in London, and the passions were very hot. Frankly, I'm not sure that Obama wading into this is a very smart idea.
If the UK stays in the EU, would the referendum be a waste of taxpayer time, do you feel like, Bulent?
You know, Cameron had to do it, so we could argue that it's a waste of money for the Britons, but if he gets a yes vote and he survives in office, then it's not a waste of money. If there's a no vote, then I think Cameron is in danger of losing his job. So, you know, ultimately he's the one who decided to call this, and he's the one who's going to pay for it. So he thinks it's worthwhile.
All righty, Bulent Aliriza, great to see you as always. Thank you so much.